Hello, and welcome to the Weekly Scroll Podcast. My name is Ryan.
And I am a necromancer of the Valorian Ascendancy.
Yes, you are. And with us today, we have a very special guest. Guest that's been here before. Happy to have him back. This is Alex of Blackoath Entertainment. How you doing today, Alex?
Hey, I'm doing great. Very happy to be here again.
Yeah. Big fan of your work, and I know that you're a big fan of the show here, which we super appreciate. So it's definitely what's funny is like we talk kind of a lot, so it's weird that it's been this long since you've been back on the show. So again, yeah, it's great to have you back.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited. This show is fantastic. I always have a lot of fun. So yeah.
Thank you for saying that.
I think you've only put out like 50 games. I think you've only put out like 50 games a month since last time you've been here. That's what it feels like. Is that about it? Is that about right?
More or less, I guess. No, I just keep releasing stuff relentlessly. I know, but a couple of people have told me you are releasing too many things too fast, and it's hard to keep up. But it's just the muse is what they want. They inspire me.
Hey, so, I mean, it's kind of true. If you're already dropping another game and I haven't even got the book from like the drive-through RPG like POD yet, because it takes 4 to 6 weeks to ship, then you might be putting out stuff at a clip. But you're full-time now, right? Like, which I mean, I think a lot of people were like, well, he has to be full-time already because he puts out, like a game a month. But you just recently went full-time, right?
Yeah, basically this week I just said, fuck it, this is it. I'm going full time with this. I got fed up with the previous stuff. Thanks. It's been a long time coming, and I kind of wanted to do it for a while now, but yeah, it's taking me 4 years to get to this point, so I guess it's okay. Yeah, I was basically just slacking a lot on my other job anyway, and focusing on this mostly. So I was like, yeah, let's just make it official. And so, yeah, this is it.
Nice.
That's cool.
Very exciting. Yeah.
I wish, man, if I could do this full time, I would be I'd be very happy. Alas, I cannot. So
no, it's an absolute privilege to be able to even contemplate the possibility of doing this full time. So I'm very grateful. Yeah.
So, and then part of that too is your Patreon, which also gets support for you as well. And you send out more updates than any Patreon that I back, and all of them are like a book. And there's a book's worth of stuff every time you put out an update. It's like you're like, hey, here's some info on this game and the next 3 games I'm working on at all times. So
yeah, the Patreon is actually, it's the reason I would say why I'm so productive, because many times like, okay, I have to put something out. I know that if I didn't have the let's call it pressure, even though it's not really pressure, but the pressure of Patreon and being forced to put something out every month, I know I wouldn't be working at this rate. Well, maybe now that I'm full-time, yes, but before, I don't think so. I will be a little bit more relaxed, but knowing that I have people who are not only putting their faith, but their hard-earned cash on me, and they believe in my work and the things I do, it really motivates me to keep releasing stuff. So yeah, I try to, at the very least, have I don't know, some small expansion. I don't know, at least 20, 30 pages worth of content monthly, and in each 2-3 months, I'm able to release a full game, which usually means over 200 pages, because that's how I am.
That is a crazy amount of output. Like
it's really nothing compared to monsters like 𝗂𝗏𝗏. It's just nothing. That guy is he makes what I do in 2-3 weeks. He does it daily. It's just monstrous. It's just, the thing is that he doesn't publish everything he writes, but if you knew how many games he has unpublished, it must be in the hundreds, basically. And I'm not talking about 1-2 pages games. No, he makes 50 pages games daily. It's just ridiculous. So I'm nothing. I'm a completely amateur compared
Hey,
to
listen, and then
some other.
there's some people out there who haven't put anything on their Patreon in 8 months and are still charging. So we appreciate those that do.
It's very,
So
very true.
yeah.
Incapable. That's just.
Yeah.
I will feel horrible. Even though, I mean, last month, for example, that as you know, I just put half a number of demonic of the official sacrifice number, which was 22 pages, and I was already feeling horrible. I was like, this is shit. I dropped the ball. This is not good, because lately I've been really pushing it hard with Patreon content. So yeah, it's really a good motivation. And on top of that, yeah, once it's there, a couple months later, I can publish it for everybody. So it's great. It's a really nice thing to have Patreon, both for as a motivation and for the support, which helps a lot. Helps pay the bills now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to now for sure. What now I'm trying to remember, what were we talking about last time you were on? Was that when Across the Thousand Dead Worlds was
No, it was
going, or was it even before that?
It was Sacrifice.
That's right.
Yeah,
it was Sacrifice.
Yeah.
Damn. That's
so
been a minute.
Yeah, like a year and something. I don't know, like 15 months at least. Yeah, last time. Yeah.
Easy. Yeah, and you've put out, I mean, even just trying to think of what you put out since then, it's like at least like 5 or 6 games since then, right?
Well, maybe not that many. I mean, let's see. After Sacrifice, it was Broken Shores. Well, originally it was called God Shard, but I had to change it, as I guess you know. But yeah, Broken Shores. Then it was Rift Breakers. Then it was this small little funny thing that I made. It's just a small game. How was it called? Blood Moon Apocalypse, which is my little zombie survival, just a mini game. It's not really an RPG even. And then I suppose you can count Across the Thousand Dead Worlds, which is now officially released and available, even though we are still finalizing or actually have to start with the US and Canada and Latin America fulfillment. And then after that I released. Yeah, it's going to be great once everybody gets their book.
Yeah.
So we have Warlords Ascendant and then under Ashen Skies, and now 𝗓𝗏𝗏. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, a few things.
That's 7. That's 7 games.
In between, there's been a couple of expansions and other things too for Sacrifice, for Broken Shores,
Argosy Reborn. So I mean, 7 plus. Yeah, you're like not quite 5 or 6, actually more. But I mean, jumping real quick to Across the Thousand Dead Worlds, I'm excited for this. Hunter's excited for it, and one of the reasons is because you showed it to us before the stream started. So do you have that book sitting right there with you?
Yeah, I have. This is the 𝗫𝗲𝗍 edition, which is our deluxe edition, which is limited to Kickstarter. Even though I have a few, like a dozen copies left, which I will sooner or later put up for sale once we know for sure everybody got their books and everybody's happy with them. We'll have a few of these rare artifacts for sale. So yeah, it's a pretty neat edition. It has, all editions come with the tokens, tokens, and then they also come with a bunch of maps which are inside. Even though this edition comes with more, the normal edition comes with 6. This one comes with 12 of them, and this edition also comes with like a quick reference with all the stuff. And then
is that one
folder with different character sheets and ship sheet, I don't know, stuff to help you keep track of everything. So
that one's the 𝗫𝗲𝗍 edition?
Yeah, this is the 𝗫𝗲𝗍 edition.
Nice. That's what I got. Okay, I was just double checking. I was like, did I get that one? Yeah, I did. Cool.
Yeah.
And then the book is the same in both editions because it's just fucking gorgeous. It's just absolutely incredible art by 𝗏𝗏𝗍, which is I don't know. It's just a beautiful book. It sucks that the original designer fucked us over and left the project hanging for a year. But even though he made a absolutely gorgeous book, it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely beautiful. So it sucks both on a personal level and professional level that he didn't finish the race with us, and we had to scramble and grab 𝗫𝗍𝗶𝗵𝗁 help, which is always saving my ass for one reason or another. He's always there to help. So yeah, he finalized it. He made it. He really helped us out. He stopped everything to help us out with this, and well, it's done finally. So I'm very, very happy.
Yeah, because the original estimated delivery was
a year ago.
Yeah, it was about a year ago, right? Okay. Well, hey, you know, I mean, you did it, so
yeah, no, but it sucks because it was like, okay, the game is done, it's been play tested, everything is done except layout. How long do you need to finish the layout? 3 months, okay. Let's say 6 to be safe. And then we added the extra time, and still it was 6 months plus another year for him. So it was, a year and a half, 2 years working on this one. Yes, okay, it was just one person, but he was supposed to be a professional. He was supposed to know what he was doing, and then life gets in the way. He had a lot of personal problems. He disappeared. He just fucking disappeared. So yeah.
Hey, but the book turned out great. Yeah, it's gorgeous. Yeah.
And hey, at least you got it out. Like a lot of people kind of, a lot of people would have given up in that situation. Way to fight through. I mean, I still have received.
It wasn't even in the.
A few things.
I didn't even consider dropping it because it's just, if I said I'm doing it, I'm doing it. Even if it cost me many thousands more than I expected, I had to put a lot of my own personal money into this because, you see the Kickstarter, and I was like, oh my God, so much money. And then prices start to increase. We had to pay more people than we initially thought we would have to pay. I mean, it's just the year of delay really screwed us over completely because it was right when the paper prices was going up. The price of transport is nuts right now. It has risen so much. So I mean, it was all just snowballing, and it was like, okay, I'm going to lose money, but well, it has to come out one way or another.
Well, what's funny, not funny, but it's an interesting thing that popped in my head before, because I had always had this question that I never asked you, just like, because you put most of your stuff out on print on demand from DriveThru, and I don't remember, we talked about it after. Someone said something at some point about printing stuff, and you're like, but it won't come to Europe, and I was like, wait, I don't understand why, and you were like, and then it basically came out like, because if you do print on demand, they have print on demand over there, but if you print only in America, you have to ship across the sea. And that, in my head, I instantly thought of you, and I was like, oh, that's why Alex always puts this stuff on POD. It's much more accessible to the rest of the world when you have POD, and then you don't have to worry about transportation prices. You don't have to worry about paper prices. So just, I don't know, it was just an interesting thing that popped in my head where I was like, that makes so much sense for Europe and South American stuff, because DriveThru has printing presses kind of like all over the world, right?
And how things are going with shipping just becoming demented. I mean, it's just between Brexit, between the European Union closing even more all the export-import laws, the United States also fucking around. It's becoming absolutely hostile to small publishers. So I was actually talking about this with the guys from Against Dark Master, the Italian guys, which are also now in the middle of fulfillment, and they're also saying that this is just, for example, they don't sell, they are incapable of selling to UK because the UK authorities, they've been trying for 2 years to get some tax identification number, and they can't get it. So they have that whole market that they cannot sell to. And it's just like that. That's just a small example. It's like that for everybody. And of course, from a customer point of view, it's absolutely nuts the amount of money that it costs to in between import taxes that you have to pay, between the shipping itself. I mean, a few years ago, I used to buy zines from the United States all the time, especially during Zine Quest. I mean, it was just all the time. And okay, well, you will pay the price of the of the scene, maybe $10 extra for the shipping, and that's it. Now between the shipping, which is like at least 20, and then the customs, which is just doesn't go below 14-15 euros extra, I end up paying for a zine 2-3 times its original price. So it's like, okay, I can't order from the United States anymore. And the opposite happens, of course. People from the United States buying from Europe is just nuts. So it's just becoming very, very difficult. And in print on demand, even though the quality is definitely, I don't think it will ever reach the level of something like this. I mean, offset printing is just superior. This is absolutely gorgeous.
Really a lot better than it used to be, though. Like those print on demand books I've gotten more recently from Drive-Thru, I'm like, oh, this is pretty good.
And Lulu is even better. But yeah, Drive-Thru RPG, they're getting their shit together and it's pretty good. The worst, at least in Europe, the worst is Amazon for sure. The quality of Amazon is like toilet paper. It's terrible.
Not shocked by that.
And the cutting and everything. I mean, you get books and it's like, seriously, just what the fuck did you do with the covers? It's just cutting. I can show you some books it's like, really? I mean, the covers is like this, and then the book inside is what the fuck? What do I do with all this extra cover? So yeah, it's terrible. But yeah, Drive-Thru RPG, they are starting to get quite nice quality, especially the cards. For example, the cards are amazing. The cards in Drive-Thru RPG, they are like any board game quality. They're very good.
The cards have been good for a while. I remember back when like Philip Reed put out a bunch of cards with from Rickborg stuff. They were really good. But the thing about the Drive-Thru printing, the covers are always very shiny, and that's the only thing, because the interiors are really nice. I did like the Lulu though. Like I got the Marshes thick. It has like a nice texture, like matte cover. That if Drive-Thru got to a cover like this, I'd screw it, just do Drive-Thru every time, because this is a really nice quality book. But Lulu does some good stuff as well.
Yeah,
so
Lulu does actually really good stuff. Yeah definitely better quality. So yeah, in the future, I'm definitely my goal is, I mean, the campaign now with 𝗓𝗏𝗃 was a little bit of an experiment to see if it works, and I think that's the direction I'm going to take, which is a hybrid thing. The core campaign is going to be fulfilled via print on demand and Drive-Thru RPG. And then for those who want something nicer, a bit of more deluxe quality, I will work with the small print I've been working. Well, I have them up there. That's why I'm looking there. The books I put out, my own edition of Disciple of Bone and Shadow, the Warlock edition. Yeah, I guess you have them around there. I
was gonna grab it, but I'm like,
So I'm working with those people again for 𝗓𝗏𝗃, so you can expect that level of quality. And I think that's what I'm going to be doing moving forward. I'm going to be releasing print on demand, and if you want something a bit fancier, you have the option of a very limited edition that it's going to be more expensive, but also it's going to look fucking amazing. So that's the future for me, at least for the time being.
We recently had the Forgotten Psalm guys on, SPI and Rugman, and they a similar kind of thing. Like the book is all going to be put out, but like all the add-ons are going to be after. They said instead of basically trying to like put all these pieces together, it made a lot more sense to just like get the book out and then buy add-ons after. And I think crowdfunding in general should really kind of think about taking that approach, where if you can get the primary thing out and into people's hands, as opposed to like, a lot of projects will be like, we have the book ready, but we got to wait like 6 more months for the box and like 6 more months for all the pieces, as opposed to just being like, we have the book ready, we're going to send you the book, and if you want a box or if you want an add-on or you want a special edition, just hit up the store after, or we'll make like a very small tier for it or not. That just seems, especially with prices kind of going crazy, that seems to be a much more reliable way to do things.
Yeah, I think it's important to have that flexibility, especially for the customers. So I mean, the more options you have for the customers, and I'm a customer above everything. I mean, I spend hundreds every month on RPGs. So that's just
right there with you, bud. Yeah.
So everyone looks at Ryan.
What do you mean? I don't. But speaking of your games, so last time you were here, you talked about Sacrifice, and you put out some big games since then. Let's just talk about maybe not specifics until we get to some of the later ones, but just your games in general. Like, I feel like You know, you have a theme to a lot of your stuff. It's dark. It's gruesome. A lot of it's like solo or solo co-op. A lot of it has a very kind of like old schoolish vibe to it. Like what would you kind of describe as like your style, I guess, in RPGs?
Yeah, definitely dark fantasy for sure. I usually like to throw most of the times a bit of survival elements because I like that trying to fight against the elements and I don't know, try to survive in whatever the game or the style. I always had a little bit of survival elements, and solo it's always a core element. Even for example, something like Sacrifice, which the first version I released didn't have any. It was quite solo friendly because I just can't help it. I always had a lot of tables and it's part of my thing. But even that first incarnation that didn't have solo rules, I immediately, after the first thing I did was release solo rules because I play most of the times. Even though I play with friends online and all that, lately we don't meet for anything. But online we still play, and most of my gaming it's done by myself. So yeah, it's my thing, solo gaming. But yes, I know maybe I'm a bit boring with always dark fantasy and grim dark, and but it's just, I mean, I'm into it since I'm a child, basically. I mean, for hammers and all that stuff, I've been playing that kind of thing since I'm 12. So yeah.
Hey,
so
listen,
that's not going anywhere.
If you can do a thing well, you know, I mean, I don't think it's boring. I think it's like, it's your thing, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, listen,
I don't know
as
if
long as you're
well,
making edgelord grimdark stuff, you have a forever customer from, you know, Ryan. So
yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm definitely the edgelord here on the show. Listen, Hunter, you got a deep edgelord streak in you too, buddy.
Listen, I'm all butterflies and rainbows and stuff, so I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, it's my interest has always been in all senses, always in the music, in aesthetics, everything. It's always been darker stuff. So I'm too old now to change.
I hear that. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like every time I come on stream, I see like another gray popping through. So I'm right there with you. But more specifically, since yeah, Hunter, just nothing but grays right there.
Nothing but gray hair on me, buddy.
That full lush gray, you know, been calling him a silver fox for a couple of years now. But specifically about some of your games, after Sacrifice, you said the first one. What was the first one after that one? It wasn't Rift Breakers, was it? No,
it was Broken Shores. Yeah, more grim dark.
Broken Shores, yeah. Why don't we just go into some specifics about some of the games? So for those that maybe are listening to the first time, that might not have a lot of games from Black Oath, like I guess let's pitch. I don't, maybe not all 7 games that you've done, but a couple. Like which one is there? Any one that you've done in the past like 15 months where you're like that I fucking did the shit out of that one. That if someone's gonna read like one book in the last 15 months that I did, like which one do you think you'd pick?
Well, aside from Across 1,000 Dead Worlds, I suppose.
We'll get to that one. Yeah, we'll get to that one. It's on the list.
I don't know. I guess Rift Breakers. I really, even though that one, it's basically my only game that is not dark fantasy. So some people still say or think that is dark, but I just don't see it. I mean, that's my pure most hard attempt at not making I'm making traditional, just standard fantasy, at least with the setting, because my goal with Rift Breakers was to basically take the type of game that you'll have in an MMO like World of Warcraft or the Elder Scrolls Online, all these kind of games that I always played and I adored, and translating all those mechanics into a tabletop RPG. So you have all the usual trappings of randomly generated loot, randomly generated dungeons. Well, they're not really dungeons, but they are dungeons.
And everything's a dungeon, you know?
Yeah,
everything.
I mean, yeah, basically they're open areas, but they work like dungeons. And the grinding the levels and the crafting. I don't know, all the typical, anything you can think of in World of Warcraft that you can do in this game. So I'm particularly happy with how the character progression, which is for me one of the pillars of my games. One of the reasons I play RPGs is character progression. I just love it. I mean, if a game doesn't have the promise of getting stronger, I mean, yeah, for one shots or something like, well, I guess it's fun for one shots, but there's another reason why I don't play one shots, because there's no character progression.
There's not a lot of progression when you're dropping off after that.
Yeah, so for me, and you can see it in my games, when I'm making a new game, it's like, okay, how can I make this game to be played basically infinitely? Because I like that no ceiling type of game style, or at least for a very long time, and that you will always be getting new things. So I think I did it pretty well in Rift Breakers. You have a set of I call them hearts, which are kind of subclasses or classes, but you can have 4 at a time. So you can, and each heart has 20 different abilities, which work a little bit like in Dungeons & Dragons, the 4th edition. You have like at will, and then per encounter, and daily. They are called differently in my game, but they are essentially that. So you can then mix and match. So maybe you take the Bastion heart, which is all for tanking, it's tanking abilities, or you take the Shadow heart, and it's all more rogue, stabby stuff, or the Arcanist stuff, which is all high-level magic rituals and all. So you can combine 4 of those and make your own completely customized character. So I think is pretty cool. And then combined with each monster, I went completely nuts there. One of my patrons said, I finished Broken Shores. So it's a cool game, but the bestiary is too small. So yeah, it's too small. Okay, let's wait for the next one. So I went all in, and I made it's almost 100 different monsters. But the thing is that each monster has its own table of actions. Like in like the enemies in Forbidden Lands, the normal ones, no, the big ones, which have you roll to see what they do. Well, every monster in the game has that, and then they also have each one of them has their own loot table. So it was like 80% of the time I spent working on that game was spent on the bestiary. It's just, I don't know, it must be like over 100 pages of the book is just your enemies to deal with. So yeah, that's two things.
That's pretty impressive. You're like, yeah, you know what? You're right. It's not big enough. Here's a whole book.
Yeah, it was basically that. Yeah, so I think in that sense, the game is quite innovative. You have a lot of things to do, and well, it shows people have really been playing it a lot. I get a lot of feedback from it. Actually, I got so much feedback from it that I ended up like, okay, these guys are right. I need to change all these things, and I ended up just releasing re-uploading all the files for print on demand, and I had to revamp a lot of things. For example, I ended up changing combat to make it a little bit faster, and I don't know. So that's important to me also, to adapt to which is good with another positive point of print on demand, because you can react to feedback like that. You can incorporate not only the PDF, which is, I mean, role-playing games are reaching that point where they're almost like video games. You just have patch notes all the time. And I have a change log in all my games. It's like, okay, I change all this. This is the change log for the PDF. And then when all the changes reach a critical mass, or it reaches that point where it's like, okay, there are so many changes, I just upload a new version for print on demand, and that's it. So that's the benefit of having on print on demand, that I can be updating the game, and you know that you're going to have, if not almost, but I mean almost all the time, the last version with all the changes there. Of course, the process of updating it takes a while, because I need to upload it, and before uploading it, since I'm not the one doing all the files, because that's a pain in the ass, the specifications for Drive-Thru RPG and for Amazon is a bit annoying, so it's Glenn who does it for me. So I have to tell him, okay, here's a new version, please can you update it? He sends it to me, then I upload it, to the website, then I have to wait for them to approve it, which is usually 1-2 weeks, and I have to wait for the books to arrive to me, so the proofs, so I can approve them, and then the book can be back in sale. So yeah, it takes like about a month to update the files, and that's why I don't do it a lot. But yeah, the possibility, I mean, only the fact that the possibility exists is just amazing.
I've never thought about the fact that, like, yeah, I guess with print on demand, like, yeah, you could just like switch out an updated file. Yeah, just like a video game. That's really clever. I mean, when you say it, I'm like, oh yeah, that seems very obvious, but I've never thought about the fact that, like, yeah, you can like update your game without releasing 2E or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Very
so,
interesting.
For example, you go now, you purchase Rift Breakers, and I'm on version 1.6.5, which sounds like a video game.
Yeah, here's some patch notes. We may fix the stability of it, you know.
Exactly, which actually is very, very on the theme with the game, because I made it to look like a video game. It even has a tutorial. You play while you're playing your character. You're making your character. You're playing through the tutorial area of the game. So yeah, it's very video gamey. So the fact that it has patch notes, it's just perfect.
Yeah, that fits amazingly well.
Yeah.
So after that, or I guess, I mean, we're getting around to it because you already had it in your hands. Like Across 1,000 Dead Worlds is the one that's like finally coming out. It's as far as I know for right now, it's the biggest thing that you've kind of done for it, and it's different than what we were talking about as far as all of these grimdark settings. I guess it's grimdark, but it's space. What made you want to switch from kind of like the grimdark dungeon crawly stuff to go to like space horror?
Well, actually, for the most part, I've always preferred science fiction to fantasy, even though lately I'm in a hardcore fantasy kick. I'm just playing fantasy, and that's it. But I was always more fan of fantasy than anything else. And I read, science fiction, and I read a crazy amount of science fiction, always. So more than fantasy, I would say. So it was just natural for me to want to make something like that. Especially, I think I mentioned it several times. This is a game that is strongly influenced, if not complete ripoff, 𝗶𝗶𝗵𝗵 𝗡𝗶 Gateway book, which is an absolute masterpiece. And I always wanted to make a game based on it. But of course, I wanted to also incorporate my personal preferences, which is a bit of darker stuff, a bit of horror, alien kind of things. So yeah, that's how it came by. I really love fantasy. It's also, from a solo perspective, it's more intimidating, at least for me. For example, it's very difficult for me to play science fiction games solo, because since you have a whole fucking galaxy of possibilities, it's more difficult for me to narrow it down. I know you can do it, of course, and that's why that's what I try to do with Across 1,000 Dead Worlds. The starting point is very focused and very narrow. You have your crew, and you're just going to be exploring this site or this planet, and then once that's done, you come back to your starting point. So in that way, it's a little bit like a video game as well. So it's like you go all out on missions, and you go there, it's done, and you come back. It's not on rails, because things can go very bad in a moment.
Right.
Even the possibility of arriving and dying because you arrive in. There's only a 2% chance of that happening. But yeah, the arrival table, it contemplates the possibility of you arriving, and since you are using spaceships that were built hundreds of thousands of years ago, maybe the solar has gone supernova, the sun has gone supernova, and you arrive and you're dead, or you arrive to a black hole that wasn't there before, or so yeah, there's a little bit small chance that you arrive and you're dead.
That's awesome, though. Yeah, that would be like the greatest thing ever.
Yeah,
oh my god,
it's pretty funny too, because it's amazing, because part of the tension of the game comes from the fact that you don't know if you're going to arrive to a place that has something for you to benefit from. You don't know how long it takes to get there, and that you're trapped in that situation unless you go alone, which is then you have another set of problems. But you're trapped there with a bunch of other people that they are all going to have their own personal problems, and they start to leak out during that travel time that you spend. I mean, it's at least a week. And on average, in my experience, it's at least 3-4 weeks. So each week you have a chance of something happening. And this can be something malfunctioning or somebody having a breakdown. And that, of course, affects to the other because there's a stress system in the game. And things escalate pretty fast. Because when one person... Oh, look, my dog decided to come here. When one person starts to have a bit of a mental breakdown, of course, the other ones start to get nervous as well. So it can snowball pretty quickly. So imagine you get over all that stuff. You manage to take the situation and not allow it to escalate. And then you arrive. It's like, okay, we're exiting a warp space. We're entering into normal space. Where are we? And then you die. so it's pretty. Yeah, I mean, some people had said, "What's the point of that?" I mean, some people were pissed off. I remember comments and all that. It's like I don't understand the point of possibility of dying. And I just couldn't resist. It's just too funny.
That's way too funny. Yeah, absolutely.
And on top of that, there's no big deal because character creation, I mean, you're done the characters are done in a second. Takes in 10 minutes, you have your character. It's just a couple of rolls and you're done. You get into the mission and you have all that section of drama in the travel, or maybe you're lucky not, maybe nothing happened. And then you arrive and you're dead. It's a amazing session 0, at least for a group or solo. It's just very fun.
Yeah, so, I don't understand when people get mad. I love that stuff. Like in 12 years, you can just die in character creation. Like you could literally just like not even get out of it. Like I think that cracks me up. And I did once. Yeah. It was great. I was like, well, fuck, I guess
it's so
all right.
Funny.
Next page, let's start again.
Yeah,
like that's great.
A staple of since Traveler did it in the 70s. It's a staple of role playing games. You can die in character creation. Well, you can die a little bit after character creation. It's fine.
Dude, I just think that if I was playing a game and we were like went through the whole thing, we were traveling and we're all like getting excited and we shut up, we died, I would bust out laughing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think it takes like you have to have that really like that very OSR-ish mindset about like, we just die all the time at this table, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess it depends on the table, of course, like everything, but at least in my experience and with my friends and all that, it's you die. It's like, okay, well, I'll roll up a new character. Nothing happens. You just laugh about it. You talk about it for a few, especially if it's something epic like this. It's just a funny story that, remember when we all died after arguing for a week and we almost killed each other, and then finally we decided to bury the hatchet, and when we just died. It's just a funny story.
That's pretty good.
It's definitely a different mindset, you know, for players, like in that, like if you see the whole thing as the game and the journey as the game and all of it as the game, it's totally different. Like when you die versus it's not really the game until you get to like the combat or something like thought, you know, it's just a different thing, you know? So, I mean, character creation's the game. So if you die, like, oh, well, you know?
Yeah.
So,
definitely agree.
The other project, well, not the other, the project you have going on right now as well, 𝗠𝗶𝗿. Tell us that. What's the pitch? What do we got going on with that right now?
Yeah. So as you said, it's currently funding on Kickstarter and it's doing pretty well. I'm very happy with it. And the idea behind 𝗠𝗶𝗿 was basically to make the ultimate dungeon crawler. I went back to basics. It has a very narrow focus, so he's decided to so
it's attention time, dude.
yeah, he decided he has to be here. So with 𝗠𝗶𝗿, it's really a solo game. I mean, you can play it co-op, but this is some people maybe wouldn't even consider it a real RPG because I don't think you can play with a dungeon master or something like that. Oh, I mean, you could, but it will be a bit boring, I suppose, for the dungeon master, because it's, like I said, it's very narrow focus. It's the whole thing, the reason for you to be in the dungeon is basically that you've been executed, or supposedly executed, because somehow you survive, and you wake up in a pile of corpses. You, with of course the wound of being hanged, you are fucked up. I mean, your character starts with less health points. There's a sanity system, of course, because it's a horror dungeon crawler game. So yeah, you are fucked both mentally and physically. No weapons, no anything, and you just have to, it's like, okay, where the fuck am I? Oh yes, they threw me where they throw all the corpses, which is the big necropolis under the city. So your point is to survive and to try to find out a way out of that mess. So you just, there's I really I call it a dungeon survival game more than dungeon crawling game, because I try to go to a little bit more towards that unexplored area when it comes to dungeon crawling games, because I think it hasn't been done, at least in this kind of more focused game, which my references for it will be something like 4 Against Darkness or 12 Years, D100 Dungeon, those kind of games, which are, yeah, you just go into the dungeon and you go and kill the monsters and get out. Well, here is, you are fucked, you don't have anything, you have to come out and survive. And of course, there's big inspiration, Diablo, of course. I mean, it's just, you have all the randomly generated dungeons in that same kind of style, a big focus on undead and demonic stuff, and huge system for randomly generating all the items. You find all the magic items are all randomly generated, and on top of that, I'm very happy with the system because it's super. I mean, you literally take 3 dice, and there you have a magic item tailored for the occasion. And the possibilities are, I mean, it's literally endless, the amount of magic items you can make with that. So yeah, I think the cool thing about the game is that it's dungeon survival, because, like, okay, you are in a hostile place. The dungeon is not this cave system, or no, this is a hostile place. It used to be the capital of a gigantic necromantic empire that ruled the area thousands of years ago. It's just all their undead, all their creations are buried down there. Maybe even some of the original inhabitants of that empire, and you have to survive. So you want to sleep, you want to rest. Okay, then you better make sure you barricade that room, and that you spend all resources that you've been collecting, all the garbage you've been collecting. You better close up all those doors and exits and entrances. You better craft your gear properly, repair all your stuff, craft torches, cook some stuff from all the weird mushrooms you found so you can eat something. I mean, it's it has that element of survival, and I think it makes it quite fun and tense. It's very important also to know when you have to stop to set camp and to rest, because there's this exhaustion system that the more you push it, the more dangerous it is. But stopping consumes resources. Maybe you don't have enough to make a proper camp and to barricade yourself. So maybe you're sleeping and then suddenly monsters bursting into your camp and you have a fight. So yeah, I think it's fun. I had a lot of fun both writing it and playing it, and people seem to have fun with it. So yeah, I'm very excited about it.
Super stoked for it. It's funny because, like, you know, a few days ago, actually, Ryan pitched me his idea for a game, which is like almost exactly.
Yeah, we talked about it.
It's similar,
was like,
yeah.
This is very funny because 𝗏𝗏𝗏 is the same way.
I was like, damn it.
But I do like the whole flip dungeon crawl, where it's like you're not entering a place, like you're trying to leave. You know, you're trying to get out of here, and it's a completely hostile area, and you have nothing. You only have what you find. Good luck, you know. It sounds like a lot of fun. I'm really excited it's going to be like it's solo and co-op, right?
Yeah.
I'm stoked for that. That sounds really cool. I'm gonna make my girlfriend play it with me. So
yeah, for 2 players is absolutely perfect.
Awesome.
It's a good balance for 2 players. Yeah. The game scales to 2 players very nicely. So yeah, it's fun.
And then for those, you have a quick start on the page, which is great. There's some interesting parts to it too, which really, you know, it kind of clues you into the way the system works even a bit. Masteries are kind of classes, right? And there's 20 of them. There's 20 of them. It's a lot of stuff you can be.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Like I said, for me, character progression is crucial in the game, and I always go all in. I mean, with so it's you have 20 masteries. You start. It's cutting, or can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, you cut for a second, but you're back. We're good. We're back. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, you have 20 masteries. You start with picking 2. Each mastery has 5 different skills, like tiers of skills, and gives you also a passive ability. So you basically, when you start a new character, you start with 2 passive abilities and 2 active abilities. And each time you level up, you gain 1 point, which you can spend in either one of your masteries. But the thing is that you can get a 3rd mastery through gear. If you find an amulet, amulets have a random mastery. So you have your 2 fixed masteries, but you have a 3rd one which you can be swapping depending on if you're lucky and find several amulets, which I did with my playthrough actually. It's like, okay, in this section I'm going to be using this amulet because this is this type of enemies, and of course the dungeon or necropolis or 𝗓𝗏𝗏 itself, I divided it into sections. So each section is ruled by an overseer, which will be like this boss of like Diablo. You have this big boss governing a whole section, and depending on which boss it is, it gives like a different boost to all the enemies in that section. So you have the option of going to try to find straight directly against the overseer, so the rest of the section is easier because the enemies will be less buffed. Or you can, if the enemy, the overseer, the big boss, if you see it's just something you can't deal with, you can ignore it and try to find the exit of that section and move on to the next one. You can always go back to the previous one if you want to. So yeah, if you are lucky, you will find a mastery amulet in each different section, and it gives you that extra flexibility when it comes to building your character. So yeah, it's a fun system.
I'm really excited for that. Not only that, I don't know how much this has gone out of Patreon, so I'll let you talk about it if it leads to the conversation. Skills are a big thing in this, as opposed to, because like there's stats, right? But some of your skills, a lot of people put as like attributes in other ones, because your attributes are a little bit different in this, but skills are pretty heavy. And you've been talking about like kind of a skill thing as well. So what made you kind of like want to make the like this bigger list of skills and things that dig into that, and then maybe something that has come out along that as well? Like what was the impetus for that?
Yeah, so as you know, I'm usually the crunchy guy. I mean, Rollmaster is my Bible. It's the best game ever made. And yeah,
I just want to say, just the GM, just the screen for Rollmaster is 5 times bigger than most games that I play, and that's just the screen, not the book. So if the crunchy guy is a bit of an understatement.
Yeah, I especially as a solo player, I personally believe that it's easier to solo games when you have this big support system and you don't have to be stopping all the time to think, okay, this is very big. If I were the GM, what would I do? How do I interpret this? No, I like that it's very clear that you don't have to put your GM hat all the time, and it breaks the immersion that way. If you know, if all the procedures are detailed in a book, I think it helps, for me at least as a solo player. That's why I don't like Powered by the Apocalypse games, because they're just too vague. As a solo player, me as a player at somebody else's table, I play anything. But me as a GM or as a solo player, I need crunch. If it's too light as a GM, that means I have to house rule a lot. I have to make a lot of content for it. And at one point, it's always like, okay, why am I making content for this game instead of making it for my own games? So
very fair.
And as a solo player, if I have to be, I remember playing everybody as a solo player. Everybody has played Iron Sworn, I suppose, So I remember having to play it stop all the time. It's like, okay, which move should I choose? I have all this list. Oh, this one is too vague. This one is and with skills is like, okay, I want to smell. What is perception? There, done. So it's much faster for me if you have a list of skills and it's just more concrete. So I have that natural tendency of moving away from vagueness of abilities, like the ability score. So I know a lot of games just use ability scores and that's it, and no skills. And it works, but me personally, I like things to be a little bit more defined. I like things to be more concrete. I have to think less. I just look at the sheet of paper and it's there, and I can focus on the story. And the story moves along without me having to be thinking about the engine behind the story. But that's just me, of course. I mean, everybody plays differently. Every table is different. I mean, that's just what works for me as a player, and therefore that's what I do as a designer. So lately I've been slowly but surely moving away from attributes and ability scores and all that, and more only into skills. So 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏 is my first game that doesn't have any ability scores. It's just a list of skills. You have the basic attributes of health and sanity, and but you can't call those abilities or ability scores. They're just like something else. Everybody
like qualities, you know?
Yeah, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Or either, which is your mana points. So yeah. But for everything else, you have your list of skills. It's a D100 based system. If you played Call of Cthulhu or any BRP game, you're going to be right at home because it's greatly inspired by that system, which is, after Rollmaster, for me, BRP is the best rule set ever created. Well, if I'm being objective, BRP is actually the best rule set ever created. Rollmaster is too clunky many times, but it has the best crits in the history of gaming. So that's why for me it's number one. But well, that's beyond the point. So yeah, I've been moving more towards skill-based systems because it's what I enjoy, and I think they work well. Also for newcomers, which was one of my design goals with 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, making a game that will be easy to grasp for people who never played solo games. So I think big part of that is that percentages is something that everybody understands. And if you see on your piece of paper that it says, okay, I have a 60% chance of jumping or whatever, okay, you know that if you have 60% chance to roll D100, if it's less than 60, it's a success. It doesn't get it. Any person understands that. So having that list of just skills and not having to add anything or this goal, this difficulty class, or all those things that can muddle the waters a little bit for newcomers, I think is very intuitive. You just see it, okay, here 60% shooting, 40%, whatever. It's everybody understands that. It's very straight to the point, and I like it. So since I like it, that's why I did it.
There you go. Yeah, it's interesting.
I always make games that I would want to play. So.
Yeah, well, I hope that people would. I would not put time into a game that I wouldn't want to play. But it's also interesting hearing you say that, because that's something I hadn't thought about either. Like, I know, like, thinking of your games, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, they're going to be dark with super metal art and a lot of crunch. So I didn't really think about, like, why to an extent. And I've been a fan of yours for longer than, like, the last 15 months when the first time we talked. It never really clicked in my head, like, that the solo play and kind of like what you need to really help solo, which if I'm playing by myself, obviously I want to be able for things to just like tell me what's going on. Like I don't want to make it up on my own. Like that. Yeah. That's kind of leads into solo journaling, and I like solo adventure, kind of the same as you.
Exactly.
That having that more crunch really just helps a little bit more, and that's why even in your kind of like not solo or the ones that are co-op friendly games, the crunch is still there because it's just a style you have, because that's how you generally play and make the solo stuff. That's just an interesting kind of enlightenment to hear about, and it kind of like I don't know, changes like how, not how I think about RP games, but like how I like perceive the games a little bit. It's like, that's why this is why this exists this way. So
yeah, exactly. And that's why they are always full of tables. Also, I always make all the games from the perspective of a solo player and the way I play solo games, of course. So that influences everything I make and write. I always had a lot of tables, all the generators I can think of, and all the procedures and detailing them as much as I can to make it easier. Of course, that's still work in progress. Many times I don't. Maybe I make it too convoluted, or I just don't explain things as I should, or assume a lot of things. I have the tendency of assuming that people play games or read games the way I do, which is like, if I don't like something or I understand it perfectly clear the first time, or it's vague, I homebrew it, I do it my way. And a lot of people don't play that way. I'm learning the hard way. A lot of people want things very, 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 and very concise and very clearly explained, and nothing open to interpretation. So I have to adapt to.
There's a lot of people that just want to be told what to do and how to think, you know?
Yeah. So
and I'm not talking about TTRPGs, but anyway. Yeah. So 1,000 Dead Worlds, Across the 1,000 Dead Worlds is on the ocean and in the post and all that stuff
already. It's in the truck.
It's in a truck. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 is on Kickstarter right now. What's the next thing? What's coming next from Blackoath Entertainment?
Well, very, very soon I'll be releasing. Speaking of all this skill-based stuff, which has been my tendency. The other day, I sat to play Dungeon Crawl Classics, which is one of the best games ever made. And like every time I sit, you're like,
I'm seeing applause still in chat. Yeah.
I think it's amazing, and it has the best magic rules ever written. I mean, it's just brilliant overall. But the problem I always have with it is that it doesn't have skills, and I'm reaching that point where if it doesn't have skills, I don't play it. And each time I sit to play Dungeon Crawl Classics, I played a couple of sessions, and it's like, okay, let's just add skills. And each time I play, I add a new skill system, and I just keep adding rules. And so I have all these home rules and systems and ideas to turn non-skill-based D20 systems into skill-based. So that's what I'm going to release. I created a new engine, which I'm calling Skill20. And it's a way of translating games like Dungeon Crawl Classics, but it works with any OSR ability-based system to translate it into a skill-only rule set. So I'll be publishing that this week, more probably. Maybe during the weekend, maybe Monday at most. I finished it writing today actually. I started a little bit with layout, and it should be. Of course I end up always adding a little bit more than I intend. So I was thinking, okay, this is going to be 20 pages. That's it. And I think it's going to be more like 50, 60. But I'm putting it up for free. I'll put it all over for free, and then I'm hoping to get more feedback from it. I'm hoping people like it and make stuff with it. And based on this, I'm going to write my own game, which I've been writing down notes for it for months. I want to make something. I'm not usually a fan of science fantasy, but I just I have the urge lately to make something in that vein. So I've been writing down notes for it for at least 3-4 months. I have a few pages of notes already for a setting. And I'm going to be using this Skill20 rule set for it. So you can expect D20 base rules, the traditional, the thing that everybody who's playing Dungeons and Dragons knows. The D20 plus modifier, and they're the target number or difficulty class, and that's it. So this is the same. It's just instead of using ability scores, you choose skills, just skills. That's it. So
I love science fantasy, so
I know, yeah,
that'll be one for me.
I'm grim, dark fantasy. You're definitely science fantasy, and then we sometimes we'll cross over sometimes, so we're good. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get into with the skill thing. I never remember like what I saw on Twitter versus what I saw on Patreon versus what I saw where. So I was like, is this something that we're supposed to not talk about yet? So I'm glad that that's what came through.
Yeah, so that's going to be done. Then I have Under Ashen Skies, which is our previous Kickstarter, the game I finished with 𝗏𝗏𝗏. Well, he finished it actually, because otherwise it wouldn't have seen the light of day, because I started working on it years and years ago. I got stuck. I just couldn't finish it, and Alan came to the rescue. He finished it. The Kickstarter was a success, and it's done. We're now just waiting for the art, which Leo from LFOSR, he's doing it. So yeah, and it should be done. It should be out next month on 𝗏𝗏 RPG, I suppose.
Nice.
And then, well, I don't know, a lot of different projects I have in the works as usual. Number 2, the second issue of Demonic should be out next month also. Should be this month for patrons, and yeah, next month I suppose for everybody else. And yeah, I don't know, I have a lot of things.
Yeah. I feel like I said, every time I get a Patreon thing, it's like, hey, here's an update on something, but here's 3 more I'm working on. And as soon as one drops, you get 3 more. So speaking of your Patreon, speaking of like, you know, the skill 20 dropping, like where are people going to be able to find these things? Like, first of all, if you're not a patron, if we haven't said it enough, this man puts out a lot of shit, so be a patron and you get all of this stuff all the time. So I highly recommend it. So where can people find, what is your Patreon, what is your, how can people find Drive Through, what's your website, all that kind of stuff? Where can people find all this great stuff?
Yeah, so I guess the easiest thing will be to go to my hub, which is my website. It's just go to blackoathgames.com, and there you have links to all my stuff in Drive Through RPG, itch.io, even Amazon. You can get them print on demand on Amazon, and my Patreon too, which is the Order of the Black Oath. And well, but if you go to my website blackoathgames.com, you have everything there. So yeah.
Awesome.
Hey, listen, let's not wait 15 months for you to come on the show again, but thank you so much for being here. I feel like if you came back in a month, we'd have like 4 more games to talk about. So it's always nice.
Probably, because right now I'm thinking of a couple of other games which I didn't mention. So yeah, if you next month I could already tell you about 3 other games which are about to be published. But well, we can leave it for next.
Yeah, we'll do it for the next time. But again, seriously, thank you so much for coming on. It's always great talking to you. And you know, we talk a lot out of here, but it's nice to have you on the show as well. So, so yeah, that's our show for today. You go to blackoathgames.com, find all of Alex's stuff, and you know where our stuff is. It's on the screen. It's in the liner notes. You can find our link tree at linktree/theweeklyscroll, and catch us for our other stuff. We have something exciting coming tomorrow, but we'll talk about it on our Twitter. So again, thank you, Alex, so much for being here. Thank you, everyone, for being in chat, and everyone out there, have a wonderful day. Bye.